At a train station, a fire broke out. Just as the train arrived, a burning skeleton stepped out from within it. The protagonist, Shinra, wanted to prove himself, but before he could act, a professional firefighting team arrived and handled the situation in his place. Using only specialized equipment and superior skills, they successfully subdued what was referred to as an infernal. Just as they finished the job, Shinra noticed a lamp about to fall and used his abilities to dash forward and save the sister of the firefighting group. He then introduced himself as the newest member assigned to this firefighting team. This was Division 8. Shinra was subsequently brought to the base of this team, which, instead of being an official facility, was actually a church. Inside, he met the captain, Obai, and the bespectacled lieutenant, Hinawa. When Obai questioned why Shinra was smiling in his photo, Shinra explained that he had a condition that caused his facial muscles to stiffen when he was nervous, making him smile uncontrollably. Obai, skeptical, leaned in to check, and sure enough, he realized Shinra must have been greatly misunderstood due to this condition. When asked why he chose to become a firefighter, Shinra said he wanted to be a hero. However, Hinawa knew that Shinra had been called a devil due to his connection to an incident in his childhood. Shinra was then introduced to two female members, Sister Iris and Maki. Sister Iris thanked him for saving her life, but Shinra simply saw it as something a hero should do. Maki kept teasing the sister, which annoyed Hinawa. Maki had also modified a pair of pants to better suit Shinra's abilities. Being near girls made Shinra nervous, and Obai started saying random things to tease him, prompting Hinawa to throw a file folder into a metal box, demanding they both be serious. Obai then explained the phenomenon occurring humans were suddenly combusting and turning into infernals. No one knew the cause. The only thing known was that infernals had a single purpose, to burn everything down. Their mission was to put infernals to rest, save their souls, and uncover the reason behind their existence. That night, Shinra reminisced about his mother and younger brother, both of whom had perished in a fire-related incident. His relatives refused to take him in, believing his abilities were responsible for their deaths. They also misunderstood his condition and assumed he was smiling at their loss. Suddenly, an alarm sounded, and Shinra was immediately called to respond to a fire. While en route, the anime introduced us to the power structure. Hinawa and Maki were second-generation pyrokinetics, while Shinra was a third-generation pyrokinetic. The team arrived at the scene in an armored vehicle. The victim's husband pleaded with Sister Iris to help his wife pass on peacefully. The team then entered the site, and Shinra, upon facing the flames, recalled flashes of the fire from his past. The pressure mounted on him, and when Maki parted the flames, he was blown away and lost consciousness. He remembered his mother telling him to run, and how he had been the only one left after the fire, despised by society and blamed for the tragedy. However, back then, he had also sensed the presence of another entity in the fire, which he believed was the true cause of his mother and brother's deaths. He vowed to find that being and make it pay. Hinawa then woke him up, and he decided to press on. Facing the infernal, Shinra found it was too fast, requiring the entire team to coordinate in order to slow it down and create an opening for him. Once he had steeled his resolve, he launched himself forward using his abilities and delivered a powerful kick to the infernal, putting it to rest. He was then thanked by the husband and praised by the onlookers. This marked his first step toward truly becoming a hero. The next day, Division 8 welcomed a new recruit. Obai informed Shinra that he and the newcomer would be participating in an upcoming competition for new fire soldiers, essentially a test of strength between them. Along with them, Obai would be there to cheer them on. As Shinra stepped outside, he happened to run into the new recruit, who turned out to be the person he hated most from his training days. The two immediately wanted to fight, so they decided to settle things outside. Meanwhile, Maki was performing a few tricks for Sister Iris. She could create fire spirits, but unlike Shinra, who could generate and control fire, she had to ignite a flame first before she could manipulate it. At that moment, the two young men charged at each other. The other guy introduced himself as Arthur, wielding a sword hilt its blade made of fire generated from his abilities. These two had indeed studied together, but they openly despised each other simply because Shinra saw Arthur's self-proclaimed title of Night King as nothing more than a wild delusion. Arthur tried to act cool and composed, but in reality, he was just an airhead. Still, Shinra was annoyed that such a clueless guy was somehow popular. Hearing the commotion, Hinawa arrived, and no one dared to cause trouble in front of him. He immediately extinguished Maki's fire spirit because fire soldiers weren't supposed to play with fire. Arthur showed slight disrespect toward Hinawa, and everyone thought he was doomed, but surprisingly, Hinawa let it slide. He wanted to test both of their abilities, so he assigned Maki as their opponent and told them to go all out, as she was a soldier and could handle herself. Shinra, overconfident, ended up having his own flames manipulated by Maki, who then punched him out of the building. He barely managed to regain his balance and land safely. Arthur, believing he wouldn't go down so easily, drew his plasma blade, which Maki couldn't easily manipulate since it was an electromagnetic flame. However, she quickly saw through his fighting techniques, forcing him to kneel before delivering a powerful kick to his face. Arthur called her a gorilla, and when Shinra approached, he also noticed her face looked like a monkey's, which enraged her so much that she beat both of them senseless. Using her abilities at an advanced level, she transformed all their flames into fire spirits and merged them into a larger one, forcing both to surrender. However, no matter how big or small a fire spirit was, Hinawa could always extinguish it. Afterward, the two were taken out for a meal by Captain Obai. On the way back, Shinra wondered if Obai ever got angry, noticing how quickly he had become friendly with Arthur. Later, Shinra was taken to test some equipment, while Arthur, confident in his sword, saw no need for any. Obai expressed his desire to recruit an engineer soon. As maintaining equipment was time-consuming, he carried over 30 kilograms of gear each time he went out. Suddenly, an alarm rang again, and the entire squad was dispatched. Since the mission was in a residential area, Obai handed Shinra an axe, instructing him to limit his use of abilities and ensure civilians didn't see their weapons. Upon arrival, they found a girl who seemed to be the victim's daughter. Her mother had passed away 2 years ago, and now her father had become an infernal. The two recruits drew their weapons, but were immediately pulled aside by Obai for discipline. He reminded them that, while their job was outwardly framed as helping infernals rest in peace, in reality, it was akin to killing people. Thus, they had to avoid letting the victims' families see their weapons to prevent them from misunderstanding their role and losing faith in fire soldiers. Suddenly, a suspicious figure passed by, scattering a strange powder that intensified the flames. The fire seemed to take on a face, staring at Obai and the two recruits. The entire squad rushed inside, only to find the infernal sitting still, showing signs of retained consciousness. Despite this, they had to release it from its suffering. Arthur took on the responsibility and put the infernal to rest peacefully. However, the house was once again affected by the mysterious powder, accelerating its collapse. Obai was struck by falling debris, realizing a third party was behind this, and vowing not to forgive them for destroying a place filled with memories of the victims' loved ones. After the mission, the squad returned, and Obai handed the surviving daughter the remaining photos of her family. That night, the two recruits lay in their bunks, discussing the nature of their job. While it seemed one way on the surface, experiencing it firsthand revealed the immense responsibility they bore. At this point, we saw the culprit behind the mysterious powder. He instructed another individual to gather information on Division 8. It was revealed that Obai had once received 2 medals of honor, but they were revoked because he prioritized saving lives over completing missions. The next day, Shinra and Arthur arrived at the rookie firefighter competition. There, Shinra met a girl named Tamaki, who was also a third-generation pyrokinetic. She seemed a bit airheaded. Meanwhile, Maki recognized the 3 mascots of the Fire Force headquarters. Shinra found it odd that one of them looked almost human, to which Maki explained that it was the human-faced dog. He didn't understand what Maki found cute about this thing, and the accomplice of the villain was here to observe Shinra. Suddenly, Shinra spotted the captain who had saved him during the fire years ago, so he ran over to ask, but the man turned away. Shinra followed him, but Tamaki blocked his path since that man was her captain. Because of her outfit, Shinra kept accidentally touching her in awkward places. Later, he met the captain again, but the man claimed that with so many fires happening each year, there was no way he could remember Shinra. However, Shinra knew he was hiding something. The rookie competition then began, and the participants had to storm into a building and approach the infernal inside. While everyone ran in, Shinra flew straight up to save time, which annoyed Arthur, who always hated his underhanded tactics. Inside, Shinra happened to come across the villain, who had already knocked out the 2 firefighters in charge of the test. The man knew about Shinra's fire from 12 years ago and was even willing to give him some clues about it. Shinra attacked, but the man dodged everything. Then, he spread that strange powder, igniting flames, forcing Shinra to go on the defensive. The villain then struck Shinra's hand with an attack, but seeing Shinra still smiling, he decided to give him a hint Shinra's younger brother was still alive. Since his brother's body was never found back then, Shinra suspected that the captain was hiding something about his brother. The villain offered him a deal, to abandon the path of a hero and join the path of a devil alongside him. Of course, Shinra refused and started attacking more cautiously, forcing the villain to take him seriously. Meanwhile, Arthur and Tamaki had also entered the scene, so the villain decided to escape early. The 2 of them assumed he was part of the test organizers, and when Shinra tried to explain, they didn't believe him and thought he was trying to take all the credit. The 3 of them then fought together, but the villain countered with a spread of ash powder. He then scattered all of the powder and gave Shinra one last chance if he wanted. He could still switch sides before disappearing. Afterward, Shinra asked Arthur to cut a hole in the ceiling, but when the piece didn't fall, Tamaki had to use her abilities to blow it out. The 3 of them then grabbed onto Shinra and escaped. Since Shinra could only carry 2 injured people, the captain stepped in to carry Tamaki, while Arthur was caught in a safety net below but still ended up flattened on the ground. The captain thanked Shinra for saving Tamaki and then left. That night, Shinra asked Obai if the Fire Force was hiding something. Obai was forced to tell the truth. The Fire Force was controlled by 3 different factions. Divisions 1 and 2 were under the control of 2 separate forces, while Division 4 was influenced by a major industrial division, the same company that supplied their firefighting equipment. Since divisions usually hid information from each other, at least one of them had likely uncovered the true nature of the Infernals. Obai wanted to expose everything, and Shinra wanted to help him, hoping to uncover the truth about his past. A few days later, the church announced that heavy rain was coming. Over in Division 5, there was a female captain who enjoyed stepping on the male members, and they were all masochists who actually liked it. When she heard about a mission in Division 8's jurisdiction, she decided to interfere. Meanwhile, Obai noticed that the news still hadn't reported anything about the villain who attacked them. Shinra recalled that the man had called himself Joker, and Obai realized that certain divisions were covering up information about him. Hinawa then presented his findings. Joker's ash powder was made from the remains of Infernals. Obai was furious that they had desecrated the dead. Shinra and Arthur were then stuck doing paperwork, which was boring. Suddenly, they received a call for a rescue mission. A dog was stuck in a tree. Even though it was a minor task, it was better than paperwork, so Shinra decided to go since his abilities made it easy. But when he arrived, he was shocked to find that the dog was actually the human-faced dog mascot, Mamoru. When Shinra saved him, he wondered why Mamoru was up there, and it turned out that some punks had thrown him onto the tree. Previously, there had been a case where a firefighter had killed 4 people for fun, so the public had grown distrustful of firefighters. That very day, the man was being put on trial. However, when the court ruled him not guilty due to insanity, the people were outraged. He suddenly caught fire and transformed into an infernal, grabbing the judge who had freed him because he believed he was the one who should pass judgment. A notification was sent to Division 8, and Division 5 also set out to interfere. Hinawa didn't know where Arthur and Shinra were and seemed furious. He got into a vehicle and headed toward Shinra, informing him that both he and Arthur had better get back immediately, or he'd break their legs so they wouldn't run off again. The 2 young men carried each other while flying toward Hinawa, who ordered them to get to the courthouse first to subdue the Infernal. The 2 rushed in and kicked the Infernal's jaw in, holding him down until Captain Obai's team arrived. Everyone was surprised to see an Infernal who was still conscious. He wanted to surrender, thinking he would be spared, but of course, Hinawa had no intention of letting such trash live. The Infernal then decided to flee, forcing Obai to send Shinra after him. Obai ordered Shinra to eliminate him without hesitation, as leaving him alive would only endanger more people. He told Shinra not to listen to anything the Infernal had to say, so Shinra simply pursued him. The chase led them into the heart of the city, where the Infernal claimed that his killings were to balance out the lives he had once saved as a firefighter. But Shinra didn't care and kept beating him down. he decided to put the Infernal to rest without waiting for a sister to offer prayers. But the Infernal pleaded for a prayer first. Just as Shinra was about to comply, the Infernal tried to bite him, so Shinra no longer hesitated and finished him off immediately. However, the captain of Division 5, Hibana, arrived with her subordinates and restrained him, planning to capture him alive. She forced Shinra to kneel, and her men held him down. But Shinra resisted because she was arrogant and disregarded the people. Obai then arrived, and Hibana argued that killing an Infernal like this was a waste. However, since this area was under Division 8's jurisdiction, she had no authority here. Still, she insisted on taking the Infernal back for research to uncover the secrets of Infernals. Obai agreed to let her take him only if she shared her findings, and she accepted. Then, a third generation from Division 5, Toru, insulted Obai for being powerless. This enraged Shinra and Arthur, who were ready to brawl, but Maki arrived and landed a punch on Toru. Everyone in Division 8 appreciated her way of handling things. With that, Division 5 departed. Later, more of Sister Iris's past was revealed. She had once lived in the same church as Captain Hibana. While purifying herself, Shinra happened to pass by. Although he accidentally saw her, he noticed she seemed troubled, so he apologized and asked if something was wrong. However, she didn't say anything and just told him to keep training. Later, the captain and vice captain gathered everyone because they wanted Shinra and Arthur to grow stronger, not just to save lives, but also to deal with other divisions targeting them. But no one paid attention to Hinawa, so he pulled out a gun and shot Shinra in the leg. Shinra felt the pain but assumed it was an air gun. However, it was a real gun. Hinawa had just controlled the force so it would hurt but not cause permanent injury. Still, their future enemies would be even tougher, likely consisting of second and third generations. Hinawa swore to put the rookies through hell. Arthur then trained with Maki, while Shinra wanted to learn more about Captain Hibana. It was said that she came from that major industrial conglomerate and had climbed to her current position. She also conducted research on Infernals and illegally sold information. Both Shinra and Arthur wanted to take down Division 5 to obtain their intel, but Shinra mainly wanted to do it for payback. That night, Captain Hibana repeatedly tortured the Infernal. Meanwhile, Shinra reflected on how Sister Iris had been acting strangely since encountering Hibana. He asked Arthur about it, but Arthur had no clue. Suddenly, Maki arrived and reported that Sister Iris had disappeared. She had gone to Division 5's facility to meet Hibana, pleading with her to stop her experiments as they violated divine laws. But Hibana no longer cared. She burned Iris's belongings and declared that gods didn't exist, only devils like herself. She threw Iris a different outfit and told her she would be staying there, using her as bait to lure Division 8. Shinra was the first to find his way there, causing a disturbance outside, forcing all of Division 5 to mobilize against him. But soon after, the rest of Division 8 arrived except for Obai, who did not join this mission. Hinawa and the others would handle things outside while he ordered Shinra to go inside and find Sister Iris. Arthur charged in for close combat while Hinawa provided covering fire, adjusting his shots carefully to cause pain but not inflict serious injury. Meanwhile, Maki interrogated the captured enemies to force them to reveal the location of the research facility. During this, Arthur accidentally encountered one of Division 5's key members, who had taken control of the Infernal and brought it to fight Arthur. On Hinawa and Maki's side, Toru released gas into balloons and hurled them to create explosions. The two took cover behind a crate, and Hinawa asked Maki to check their position. Once she pinpointed it, Hinawa fired multiple bullets, manipulating the sparks mid-air to redirect them toward Toru. Just as they finished dealing with him, the three angels of Division 5 appeared. Arthur was struggling against the Infernal, who had grown stronger and had larger flames due to an injection. Meanwhile, Hibana learned that all her subordinates were engaged in battles, but Obai was still nowhere to be seen. She wanted to be the only one who knew the truth about Infernals and wouldn't let anyone interfere. Arthur kept taking hits from the Infernal and felt strangely weak, but the Infernal believed it was simply a matter of overwhelming difference in power. However, Arthur soon realized he had been holding his sword in his left hand despite being right-handed. The moment he switched hands, he finished off the Infernal in a single strike. The Division 5 officer watching was stunned by Arthur's absurd strength. Hinawa and Maki also took down the three angels. Hinawa wasn't sure how many more groups like this Division 5 had. but it seemed they had dealt with all of them. He decided to leave the chaos to Shinra while he searched for research documents. Shinra, now inside, encountered another trio and defeated them in one move before proceeding. He finally reached Hibana and challenged her once again. She mocked him, calling him insignificant, claiming he wouldn't even be able to touch her. Once more, she overwhelmed him, forcing him onto the ground. She revealed that she had adjusted his body temperature to simulate a fever, rendering him too weak to resist. But now that he understood her ability, he stood back up, declaring that Hinawa's training was much harsher than this. Hibana found it boring to defeat someone without resistance, so she decided to fight seriously. She hurled flames at Shinra, but when he charged in, she used her heat manipulation trick again. She scoffed, saying he was still too naive to call himself a hero. She then created a blazing cherry blossom tree, where each petal that touched him would burn him. Sister Iris tried to reason with her, urging her to pray to the gods, but Hibana scoffed, stating she had never believed in gods. She recalled the time when an infernal appeared in their church, leaving only her and Iris alive. From that moment, she abandoned her faith, considering her powers to be demonic rather than divine. Shinra stood up once again, refusing to let himself fall. Hibana encased him in burning petals, but he remained standing, determined to defeat her no matter what. She dismissed the idea of heroes as nonsense and attempted to knock him down again, but it no longer worked. Shinra charged in and punched her, triggering a memory from her past in the church. Back then, Hibana had used her abilities combined with chemical compounds to create colorful flames. She wanted Iris, who was hiding, to come out and see them. Sister Iris had asked everyone to come inside and urged Hibana not to misuse her powers, believing they were a gift from the gods. She had once asked Hibana to show her flame flowers again, but only after she overcame her timid nature. Then, the fire disaster struck. From that moment, Hibana abandoned the concept of gods and viewed her abilities as purely demonic. She later researched infernals and sold information to the conglomerate that elevated her to the rank of captain. As she regained consciousness, Iris continued to reason with her, and Shinra told her that he would become a true hero. If she ever needed help, he would be there. Hibana blushed slightly and finally fulfilled her old promise, showing Iris the fire flowers, as she was no longer timid. All three then went outside and saw that Hinawa had taken good care of Company 5. Iris suggested the idea of holding a party to reconcile both sides, and Hibana agreed. He didn't know why she agreed so easily, but she admitted that she had somewhat taken a liking to Shinra. Obai had finished preparing to set out when he heard the news that his subordinates had already finished fighting. The next day, both brigades held a party. They considered last night's attack to be a real combat exercise. Everyone in Division 5, after taking a heavy beating, feared that in the future, they would have to endure more under the guise of real combat. However, Shinra had truly won Hibana's affection, and she even fed him. Hinawa grilled skewers, Maki played around with fire spirits, and the blonde girls from last night looked almost identical, differing only in their hairstyles. Arthur went around taking down all the fire spirits under Hinawa's orders. That afternoon, Hibana directly told Obai that Division 5 still wouldn't help him, only she would, because she had once been corrupted by the darkness of this world until Shinra helped her realize the warmth of the flame of justice. Obai also admitted that Shinra was indeed the hero of Division 8, and he had not given up on investigating the other brigades. Hibana then revealed what she had discovered about the infernals, that someone had been creating these spontaneous human combustions. However, only a few of the corpses she had were different from the rest, meaning this was merely a second cause of combustion, while the original cause remained a mystery. Both of them resolved to find out who was behind the phenomenon. Hibana also pointed out that all the artificially created infernal corpses were found within the 1st Brigade's jurisdiction, so investigating there would be difficult. The group later held a meeting at Division 8, and Hibana stated that the only way they could investigate Division 1 was to have these two rookies go there under the pretense of gaining experience, while their real purpose was undercover investigation. She would also send some of her members along to avoid raising suspicion. When the day came to transfer to Division 1, Shinra and Arthur had to go along with Teru and another member from Division 5. The four were led inside by Maki and met one of the 1st Brigade's commanders. He insulted the two young men before leading them in to meet the captain. Shinra still wanted to uncover the captain's secrets, so he proposed a duel with one of the 1st Brigade's commanders in exchange for the right to ask the captain one question. Obai was pacing back and forth out of concern for them. Hibana was worried that Shinra would become arrogant just because he had defeated her. Meanwhile, Tamaki, upon hearing that Shinra had challenged someone to a fight as soon as he arrived, came to watch. They would have to fight this red-haired captain, and a roulette wheel started spinning to select the first fighter. The first one chosen was an unfamiliar young man who had come along. His name was Noto. This young man feared fire, and he had taken this job to overcome his own flames. He fired several fire bullets, which the red-haired captain dodged so that the blue-haired one behind him could handle them. The blue-haired man transformed the flames into steam and then into ice, which he threw toward the red-haired captain. If he hadn't, the captain would have taken the hit. The red-haired captain's playful attitude only made the blue-haired man angrier. He then explained the mechanics of his ability, and Shinra suspected that these 3 commanders might be involved with the Infernals. Teru was chosen next, but since his ability only involved gas projection, there was no need to test it. The 1st Brigade's captain then took on both young men from Company 8 at once. Arthur wanted to fight alone, but the captain raised his hand to stop him. Arthur declared that he wouldn't be responsible if the captain lost his hand, but he was told to prove it first before making such claims. The captain merely swiped his hand, sending Arthur flying backward. Shinra charged in, unleashing a barrage of kicks on him. Although the force was strong enough to shake the surroundings, the captain was simply too powerful. Even after taking all the attacks, he only needed to stomp once to send Shinra flying backward. Shinra was then welcomed into Division 1, and both he and Arthur would be managed by the blue-haired commander. The next morning, Hibana handed Obai her research documents. All of the Infernals that had been artificially created shared a common trait. They had something like a parasite embedded in their cores. 5 days had passed since Shinra arrived at Division 1. He only had 1 month, but every morning, Hinawa would come to check on the situation, and Shinra wanted him to stop doing that. Hinawa had come with Hibana, and both of them noticed that many other brigades were also lurking around, while Division 1 didn't seem the least bit wary. While they were having breakfast, Noto asked the 3 of them about their reasons for becoming fire soldiers. For him, it was simply to better control his abilities and also to win over Tamaki, whom he liked. Tamaki accidentally sat on Shinra's head when she arrived. Suddenly, an infernal alarm went off, and she instructed the 4 young men to call the 3 commanders in charge. Shinra and Arthur witnessed the professionalism and structured operations of the blue-haired commander, who ordered them to stay put as they were newcomers. While standing guard, they suddenly saw a person emerge, and someone pressed an insect container against them, turning them into an infernal. Shinra immediately pursued the culprit, and together with Arthur, they discovered both the red-haired and blue-haired commanders at the scene. Arthur almost let something slip, but Shinra stopped him, making up an excuse that they had gotten lost. Back in their quarters, Shinra explained that those 2 were now suspects, and any reckless actions could lead to them being executed on the spot. Thus, they needed to investigate each commander, starting with the red-haired one. However, they first went to the blue-haired commander's room because Shinra had arranged for Noto to lure him outside, promising to get Tamaki's number for him. They sneaked into the room and found a jar of insects. Just as they were concluding that the blue-haired commander was the mastermind, he arrived. He revealed that he had intentionally placed a normal insect there, as he had been suspicious of Shinra and Arthur's movements in the alley. He, too, was investigating this case to find the true culprit. Based on what Shinra and Arthur had witnessed, he suspected the red-haired commander. 2 months ago, there was an incident where multiple children simultaneously turned into infernals, and he had discovered an insect at the scene. Meanwhile, Tamaki had been leading some children under the red-haired commander's direction. He had gathered a group, deceiving them with claims that he possessed a ritual to protect them from becoming infernals. He wanted Tamaki to leave, but she insisted on staying, leading him to restrain her until she lost consciousness. He then pressed an insect against the mother, turning her into an infernal. The blue-haired commander intended to stop his comrade, but Shinra and Arthur wanted to intervene as well. He told them that this was a matter for the 1st Division, but since they were not official members, they didn't have to follow his orders. Tamaki eventually regained consciousness. The red-haired commander realized that he had intentionally left her alive to frame her, but his grip hadn't been strong enough to kill her. she finally saw the true nature of the man she had always admired. After beating her, he used an orange-haired child as an experiment, but the boy fully controlled the flames and did not become an infernal. He then prepared to experiment on the remaining 4 children. Tamaki screamed for help, which allowed Shinra to locate them. Just as the red-haired commander was about to kill Tamaki, Shinra charged in and stomped his face. At that moment, Tamaki seemed to have found a new idol. However, Shinra let his guard down and was kicked away by the red-haired commander. Shinra retaliated with a flaming kick to his face, but the commander ignited his own flames and counterattacked with a punch. Shinra had to kick him away, surprising Tamaki that he could hold his own against the commander. The red-haired commander noticed that his insect reacted to Shinra and realized that Shinra was the one he had been searching for. He revealed that Shinra was a flame born from the gods, a divine fire meant to guide humanity. He had experimented on many children in search of this special flame, never expecting that Shinra would be the one to possess it. Enraged, Shinra launched another kick at him, but the commander blasted him away toward Tamaki. Apologizing, Shinra turned to resume the fight, but the commander attacked with flames, which spread behind Shinra and burned Tamaki's clothes. Distracted, Shinra was punched toward her again. She told him to ignore her and focus on winning, begging him to defeat her commander. Aware of the difference in their firepower, Shinra still believed he could win. He lunged forward with a kick, but the commander blocked it, forcing Shinra to evade. He then flipped downward, delivering a back kick that launched the commander into the air, followed by 2 additional strikes. Dodging an attack, he ascended to the rooftop and delivered a crushing kick to the commander's head. Meanwhile, Tamaki ran to protect the children. Shinra was nearing his limit, having burned oxygen for an extended time, yet the red-haired commander still struggled to his feet. He had finally found the one the evangelist needed. Shinra demanded to know who the evangelist was. The commander revealed that his organization was trying to create more beings like him, increasing the number of infernals to engulf the world in flames, turning Earth into a second sun. He also mentioned that the evangelist had taught him a lesson since childhood, leading Shinra to suspect that this person might have kidnapped his younger brother. He intended to burn his entire body to drag Shinra down with him before reaching his limit, but the blue-haired man arrived and froze him. The more heat he generated, the larger the ice grew. He stubbornly resisted, but was ultimately completely sealed within the ice. The blonde-haired man also arrived, and upon seeing the red-haired man in this state, he wondered what would become of Division 1. Suddenly, the red-haired man was struck by a fire blast from afar and died. The 2 shooters were positioned on the rooftop of the opposite building, and they aimed to take down another fire soldier. The blonde-haired man recognized this and shielded the blue-haired man, losing an arm in the process. The blue-haired man then asked Shinra to release smoke to obscure their vision. Afterward, he had Shinra observe the enemy's location, and once Shinra pinpointed it, he instructed Tamaki to launch flames toward them, then immediately froze the area. He knew they couldn't win at that moment, so he did this intentionally to make the attackers realize their position had been exposed, forcing them to retreat. The 2 assailants, seeing the smoke, could no longer fire accurately and decided to withdraw to avoid revealing their identities. Now, Shinra had found his next target to pursue the evangelist. The blue-haired man, seeing that everyone was safe, handed Tamaki his coat to cover herself. She knew she would definitely be punished because, even though she was deceived, she was still the one who led the children here. She was ready to accept her punishment. The blue-haired man understood that Shinra would now be chasing after the evangelist, and since he was doing the same, they both decided to work together. A few days later, Shinra returned to Division 8, as the incident with the red-haired man was causing chaos within Division 1. Meanwhile, Arthur had gotten completely lost, so they had to put out a missing person notice. However, Shinra felt that Division 8 was truly where he belonged because every member held meaning for him. Suddenly, he noticed Tamaki was here. Obai explained that she had been suspended, so he decided to take her into Division 8. Remembering the favor for Nodo, Shinra asked for Tamaki's contact number. She thought he was asking for himself and was willing to give it, but when she realized it was for someone else, she refused. Meanwhile, Arthur had wandered somewhere out into the wilderness without realizing he was lost. A few days later, Obai found a salary raise request for Shinra on the locker. The moment he opened it, he was buried under a pile of trash. He stormed in to question Shinra, but upon seeing Hibana there, He immediately knew it was her doing. He wanted Shinra to deal with Hibana, but she lured him in with food, making him fall for it. Obai then promised to treat Shinra to ramen another time. Suddenly, Tamaki rushed in, tripped, and accidentally kneed Shinra in the face while her skirt slipped off. Obai, seeing Hibana playing with fire, ordered Hinawa to do something about it, but Hinawa was busy. Despite the chaos, at least the office was full of life. That day, Obai and Hibana had to attend a meeting, bringing both Shinra and Tamaki along because the meeting was about the white-clad organization, and the two of them were directly involved. The topics included artificial infernals, the white-clad organization, and the evangelist, all of which were undoubtedly connected to the true cause of the infernal incidents. Shinra was then surprised to see a thermal power plant. Hibana explained that it was Amaterasu, the thermal energy plant that supplied power to all of Tokyo. The group arrived at the meeting location and reunited with the blue-haired man. He introduced himself as Karam and stated that from now on, he would be cooperating with Division 8 to uncover the truth behind the red-haired man. A masked man resembling a plague doctor approached Hibana and warned her not to get too close to Division 8. Once the meeting began, it was revealed that this man was the captain of Division 3. Another notable figure present was the captain of Division 7, Shinmin. Obai noted that Division 7 rarely attended meetings, so their presence alone showed how serious the situation was. Furthermore, Shinmin was said to be the strongest fire soldier. Seeing Shinra smiling, Shinmin remarked that he seemed like someone who enjoyed causing trouble. The leader of the Fire Force headquarters appeared. It was the Emperor and Supreme Archbishop of the Fire Force. He ordered everyone to work together to uncover the villain behind all these incidents. However, Shinmin and Division 7 showed blatant disrespect toward the Emperor and left the meeting. Since Shinmin had never sworn allegiance to the Emperor, he did as he pleased. The Emperor called for all Fire Force companies to cooperate in solving this case. Meanwhile, Joker had been eavesdropping on the meeting and decided he would meet Shinra again soon. As for Shinra, the Emperor had heard rumors about him possessing the Atala Burst. Essentially, this was the same flame that powered the Amaterasu thermal energy plant. Unlike regular flames, the Atala Burst was a fire that could not be explained by science. The captain of Division 3 knew that the evangelist would be hunting Shinra, so he wanted to assign someone to protect him. However, Hibana wanted Obai to refuse, as Division 3 was planning to turn Shinra into an experiment. Obai chose to take full responsibility for Shinra's safety himself. That afternoon, Obai and Tamaki returned first, while Shinra went to visit the Amaterasu power plant. There, he encountered Joker again. Joker wasn't interested in fighting, and even bet that Shinra wouldn't be able to defeat him. Instead, he came to give Shinra a reward for getting closer to the truth. He revealed that if Shinra continued searching for the evangelist, he would find his younger brother. Shinra's brother was actually the commander of the Ashen Knights, serving under the evangelist. While Shinra was still in shock from this revelation, Joker disappeared. Afterward, Shinra returned, and Hinawa announced that they would officially begin investigating the white-clad organization. To do so, they would go through all the reports on infernal incidents to search for clues. They spent the entire day reading, but everyone noticed that Shinra seemed a bit off. However, Shinra was more focused on messing with Arthur. He knew Arthur wouldn't last long in this kind of work, so he was waiting for him to collapse. By nighttime, Arthur was on the verge of exhaustion, so they decided to take a break. The two girls went to cook something, but Hinawa felt uneasy. Suddenly, Tamaki screamed she was left wearing only an apron. Shinra found this completely unsurprising, while Hinawa told Maki to take Tamaki to change clothes, leaving him and Shinra to cook instead. Hinawa sensed that something was weighing on Shinra's mind, so he told him to trust in Division 8. Shinra truly liked this division and had no complaints about being here. Later, Shinra called everyone to eat, and Arthur had finally recovered. Obai asked Hinawa what he thought about Shinra, as he was worried that Shinra was under pressure from the recent incidents with Division 5 and Division 1. However, Hinawa believed Shinra was fine. While they were eating, Shinra and Arthur still had enough energy to compete with each other, which reassured Sister Iris. Ever since Shinra returned, things had felt a little off. Arthur even gave Shinra some meat, which made Shinra decide to trust in this division. He then revealed that he had met Joker and learned the truth about his younger brother. Obai knew that Shinra believed his brother was alive, so they all chose to believe in him as well. Hinawa then adjusted their investigation plans based on the information that Shinra's brother was still alive. The next day, some members were curious about how Division 8 was originally formed, so Obai had Hinawa explain. Years ago, Hinawa, Maki, and another friend named Toto were all in the military. Maki was the daughter of a general. Despite her small physique, she trained twice as hard as everyone else, yet she still lived under the shadow of her father. She was also too kind, so Hinawa thought she wasn't suited for the military. Toto believed in divine faith, but Hinawa didn't. He felt that a gun was still a gun whether it was blessed or not. One night, Toto was reading a book when he suddenly burst into flames and turned into an infernal. Hinawa couldn't bring himself to pull the trigger, so others arrived and gunned him down instead. Toto's gun was then passed on to Hinawa. After that, Hinawa wandered aimlessly until he encountered a firefighting crew at work. There, he met Obai, who was still just an ordinary firefighter. Obai had to report the situation to the fire soldiers. There were two infernals, but instead of splitting their team to deal with both, the fire soldiers chose to focus on the more aggressive one. Obai objected to this decision, but they pushed him aside, saying that as an amateur, he had no right to speak against professionals. Obai then decided to handle the second infernal himself, and Hinawa chose to assist him. Since neither of them were official fire soldiers, they would be punished for interfering, but they were both willing to accept the consequences. Neither had much experience fighting infernals, but Hinawa shared what had happened to his friend. Though he didn't believe in divine faith before, he had now changed his mind. Obai didn't care about belief. What mattered to him was what they could do for the infernals. If faith could help infernals rest in peace, then he was willing to believe. The two prayed for the infernal before firing their weapons. Afterward, they decided to dedicate themselves to helping others. Obai vowed to create a fire force division, and Hinawa told him to seek him out if he succeeded. 2 years later, Division 8 was officially established. At that time, Hinawa also recommended Maki for the team, believing that her kindness and empathy made her suited to be a fire soldier, even if she was unsuited for the military. Maki was happy to learn that she had a meaningful place here. Obai then reaffirmed that the goal of their division had never changed since its formation to respect the dead and protect the living. Hinawa then recounted the first mission of Division 8, which involved handling an infernal dressed entirely in white. They quickly put the infernal to rest, but there were suspicious elements regarding the flames, a strange cross symbol, and a division that swiftly arrived to clean up the scene. That division was still operating and was located within the jurisdiction of Division 7. Meanwhile, Shinman of Division 7 was patrolling the streets, continuously receiving gifts from the townspeople and invitations for drinks. He brought a batch of pastries from an old lady back home for his two younger sisters, who were just as foul-mouthed as their brother, if not worse. The vice captain informed him that Division 8 wanted to come and investigate the evangelist, but Shinman wanted to ignore them. However, Division 8 still came by to give prior notice, but Shinman disliked it and chased them away. He didn't care about people turning into infernals because he had never seen anyone transform into one before. Just as he finished speaking, a fire alert was reported. The victim was the very man who had invited him for drinks that evening. Shinman went to handle the situation and told Division 8 to leave before he returned. He charged into the scene while others stood as background characters. He threw an object resembling a broom, which burst into flames and swept through an entire row of houses. He then grabbed another and used it to propel himself forward. Others tossed him 4 more, allowing him to destroy yet another row of houses. The old lady commented that they could rebuild their homes as many times as needed. The vice captain explained that Shinman was considered the strongest because he could both generate flames like a 3rd generation and manipulate them like a 2nd generation, making him a hybrid firefighter. He swiftly put the infernal to rest, ensuring his drinking buddy wouldn't have to suffer. The old lady thanked Shinra for letting her witness the man's final moments. While Shinman's methods seemed crude, to the people there, every infernal had to be put to rest by his own hands. They then held a funeral, but their approach looked more like a festival. Afterward, Shinman arranged for the area to be repaired, inviting those with damaged homes to stay at the office temporarily. Wanting to help, Shinra suggested that Division 8 assist, making negotiations easier. Shinra helped with transportation and debris clearing, Obai assisted, Arthur handled welding, Maki took care of heavy lifting, and Tamaki, well, she was out of the picture. The White-clad noticed Division 8's presence and suspected they were onto them, so they decided to prepare bugs to incite chaos. That night, Shinmin helped the vice captain with his illness. Shinmin admitted that he neither suited nor liked his role as captain. But with the vice captain unable to fight anymore, he had no choice but to bear the responsibility. His two younger sisters came over and complained about Shinra, calling him an idiot and looking down on him. When they got a bit too disrespectful, Shinra dragged them outside. Shinmin ultimately decided to cooperate with Division 8 because he didn't dislike them. Later, he told Shinra about the vice captain's illness, a condition caused by overusing abilities, where the body gradually turns to ash. He asked Shinra to fetch Obai, but Obai had also sent Shinra to fetch Shinmin. That night, Shinra and Maki noticed that both sides had temporarily stabilized, meaning they could soon begin investigating the White-clad. They left Iris with Hibana since the people here did not follow the faith. Meanwhile, Hibana had also sent people to renovate the office as punishment for putting on airs around her. As Shinmin was walking, he suddenly overheard Obai and Hinawa discussing creating more infernals. Enraged, he ignited the surroundings and chased them away. Neither Obai nor Hinawa understood until Shinmin confronted them, and they insisted that he had misunderstood. Shinra arrived to explain, but Shinmin refused to listen. He demanded that they prove they weren't violent by defeating him. Two white-clad members, who had been impersonating them, saw that their plan had succeeded. Maki rushed forward to block an attack, but Shinmin pulled flames from behind her, forcing Shinra to jump in and assist. Both were sent flying into the water. When bullets rained toward him, Shinmin effortlessly blocked them. Arthur and Tamaki charged in, but he kicked Tamaki away and used Arthur as a shield against gunfire. He even unleashed an invisible sword strike that, despite being unseen, dealt significant damage. Obai returned with equipment to ensure that this battle was strictly between the two leaders. Since he had no abilities, Obai could only charge forward with a fire-resistant shield. He kept trying to explain, but Shinmin stubbornly refused to listen. Shinmin then launched 5 broom-like weapons, rendering Obai's shield useless. Obai used fire-extinguishing grenades to create a smokescreen and closed in on Shinmin. The moment he made contact, Shinmin flipped him over, but Obai retaliated by headbutting him. Shinra was shocked at how strong Obai was. Suddenly, the vice captain of Division 7 arrived and heard about the misunderstanding from Shinmin's 2 younger sisters. Seeing that normal attacks wouldn't work against Obai, Shinmin prepared to use a lethal technique. The vice captain intervened to protect Obai, insisting that Division 8 be given a chance to explain. However, Shinmin refused, forcing the vice captain to physically restrain him, even at the cost of harming himself. With that, Shinmin finally stopped and allowed them to explain. Obai and Hinawa had actually been out shopping at the time, and Maki could vouch for them. However, Shinra had been instructed by both of them to lead Shinmin behind the alley, which made Shinmin suspicious. He decided to spare the team out of respect for the vice captain, but stated he would question the townspeople and deal with them later. The vice captain lamented Shinmin's long-standing inability to listen. They noticed that Shinmin seemed regretful about something related to the vice captain, prompting him to recount an incident from a year ago, when Division 8 was first established. That night, the town was suddenly overrun with infernals. Both he and Shinmin fought to their limits, but reinforcements never arrived. Then, they encountered an infernal resembling a demon. The vice captain pushed Shinmin aside to face it alone, knowing that Shinmin was far more important than himself. By morning, Shinmin woke up to find his friend had fought alone until his body had nearly turned to ash. But the vice captain refused to let Shinmin die. At that moment, Division 4 arrived, and its captain encouraged them to join the force and establish Division 7. If they became firefighters, they would receive financial support and other benefits. The vice captain wanted to think it over, but Shinmin refused to become a government dog. However, accepting the offer meant they could prevent future destruction in time. That's why everything he suffered now was his own choice, and Shinmin was not to blame. He was always willing to sacrifice his insignificant life for Shinmin. Shinra urged him to stop thinking that way, saying that every life was equally precious. If he ever felt that way again, he should call Shinra, who would be ready to help at any time. The vice captain agreed to conduct an investigation, allowing Division 8 to assist if they wanted. Meanwhile, Shinmin walked the streets and noticed that people were suddenly fighting and misunderstanding each other, just as he had misunderstood Division 8. Even his two younger sisters were arguing. Out of nowhere, Arthur charged in and kicked one of them, claiming he had spotted an old man disguised as a little girl. The others couldn't see it and thought Arthur had lost his mind. However, the girl he kicked immediately revealed her true form. At the same time, in an abandoned warehouse, a white-clad member was using fire to alter another person's face by inflating their blood vessels and gradually reshaping it. However, when the result displeased him, he lost his temper and caused the person's head to explode. Shinman was unsure how to resolve the widespread misunderstandings when, suddenly, multiple infernals appeared. The white-clad sought to use the chaos as an opportunity to strike at Division 8. However, Division 8 was unable to act since this was Division 7's territory, and the townspeople only trusted Shinman to put infernals to rest. Instead, they decided to assist in evacuating civilians. Suddenly, they were targeted by white-clad snipers. Maki managed to block the shots, but one was about to pierce through. She quickly transformed the arrow into a spirit, preventing any fatal injuries. Arthur and Shinra rushed ahead, with Shinra realizing that he had been targeted. He identified the positions of two snipers, kicked away a third incoming shot, and spotted a third sniper further away. Recognizing that they were trying to separate him from the battalion, he decided to guide Arthur along since Arthur was too directionally challenged to navigate on his own. Meanwhile, the vice captain and the younger sister were interrogating the imposter, but he refused to talk. Instead, he released a bug onto himself, transforming into an infernal. Hinawa immediately rushed in and shot the imposter dead. Since the man was not a local, they didn't have to worry about any religious considerations. Obai asked the vice captain for help because he couldn't get the townspeople to listen to him. Shinman also couldn't rally them, as the misunderstandings had caused them to lose trust in one another. Meanwhile, Shinra encountered one of the white-clad and attempted to charge at him, only to be ambushed by a second attacker. The second enemy restrained Shinra while the first prepared to shoot, but Arthur intercepted the attack. Shinra broke free, but the white-clad cloaked figure positioned himself to shield the sniper. Arthur and Shinra refused to cooperate with each other, but Arthur still managed to block every shot. Seeing this, the sniper switched to explosive rounds. The two were pushed back, yet they stubbornly refused to work together. When they were cornered, they finally set aside their petty rivalry to coordinate their attacks. However, Shinra didn't expect much from their teamwork and instead planned to separate their opponents. Arthur would handle the cloaked fighter, while Shinra, being faster, would take down the sniper. The moment they agreed, they tripped over each other again but ignored it. To avoid more mishaps, Shinra took to the air. They kept switching targets as needed since their enemies refused to be split apart. Sensing that the fight was getting difficult, the cloaked figure ordered the sniper to retreat before swallowing a firebug. Meanwhile, Shinman continued roaming the town, eliminating infernals and offering prayers for their souls. He later met with the vice captain, asking him to reassure the people since his leadership was crucial at this moment. However, the vice captain insisted that Shinman should do it himself, as the people needed a strong and trustworthy leader now more than ever. Realizing he couldn't argue against him, Shinman warned not to expect too much from a brute like him. He then lifted an entire watchtower into the sky so everyone could see and announced that an imposter was among them. However, he urged them not to lose unity, or they would be driven into a corner. The people trusted Shinman's judgment, shifting the tide of the situation. But instead of some elaborate strategy, he simply ordered everyone to fight real or fake, it didn't matter. Division 8 would handle the infernals and fires. Meanwhile, Arthur and Shinra saw the cloaked enemy transform into an infernal, but one with horns, effectively making him a fire demon. Watching the townspeople brawl, Obai and Hinawa chose not to get involved, though the two female members were eager to join. The vice captain directed people to put out fires, while Shinman noticed the demon and moved to confront it. The sight triggered Shinra's memories of the fire from his past, causing him to lose focus, forcing Arthur to step in. Seeing his own leg charred black, Shinra screamed in shock, but it turned out to be just an illusion. The sniper made a cryptic remark before vanishing. Arthur was blasted away by the demon and called Shinra to join the fight. Even attacking together, their efforts barely scratched the creature. Shinman arrived, determined to settle the score for what had happened 2 years ago, when a fire demon caused the vice captain's tragic fate. Meanwhile, Maki and Tamaki searched for the remaining young girl and found her dealing with two criminals who had deceived them and replaced someone with an imposter. Shinmen effortlessly blocked the demon's attack and landed a hit, but it barely affected the creature. Remembering the destruction the vice captain had suffered to defeat such an enemy, Shinmen decided to drag the demon into the sky to prevent further damage to the town. As he ascended, the sniper fired a shot at him. The vice captain, unable to intervene, remembered Shinra and called for his help. Sensing the danger, Shinra immediately flew upward at full speed. Straining himself to the limit, his face contorting under the force, he caught the arrow, but moving it was another challenge entirely. Recalling the sniper's words about his flames bringing destruction to the world, Shinra became enraged, unleashing even more power and successfully redirecting the arrow. With that, Shinmen took care of the rest. He hurled the demon upward and summoned a barrage of broom-shaped weapons with the force of missiles. He even used the technique he had nearly unleashed on Obai earlier. However, the demon still remained intact. Finally, Shinmen resorted to using the vice captain's most powerful technique, ultimately reducing the fire demon to ashes. The two remaining white-clad operatives decided to withdraw, having gathered the information they needed. Shinra noticed Shinmen falling and rushed in to catch him, as it seemed he had reached his limit. With the fires and infernals all taken care of, the vice captain acknowledged that they owed a great deal to Division 8, especially Shinra. The next morning, the town began repairs, with Shinmen helping in the reconstruction efforts. Meanwhile, Maki and Hanawa informed Obai that the division affiliated with the evangelist had burned down undoubtedly. They had used the previous night's chaos to destroy any evidence. Later, Shinmen called Division 8 over to bid them farewell, as they were preparing to leave. He brought out a bottle of alcohol and offered Obai a drink, a gesture of camaraderie between the two teams. Upon drinking, Shinmen let out an uncontrollable laugh and promised to assist them whenever needed. Seeing his ridiculous expression, Shinra couldn't hold back his laughter. Meanwhile, the two white-clad operatives had returned to their organization to report to their leader. They confirmed that one of their own had fallen and that the wielder of the flames the evangelist sought had appeared. The names of these three were revealed. The one who disguised himself was Jonah, the sniper was Arrow, and their leader was none other than Shinra's younger brother, Sho. Around this time, Division 8 welcomed a new member to fill the Science Division, as the Empire had ordered reinforcements for that role within all units. The new recruit assigned to Division 8 was Victor, the very scientist who had developed the ash powder used by Joker at the start of the series. Since he had officially joined, Victor requested to examine Shinra's legs, but with Hibana present, no one was laying a hand on Shinra without her permission. Reviewing Victor's records, they found that he was remarkably talented, with no apparent flaws, graduating as the top student of his university and leading the field of fire suppression technology research. However, his excellence led to isolation, which was why he ended up here. Since Division 8 was still lacking both a science officer and a mechanical engineer, they needed to recruit one. Obai had already considered an engineer, someone who had rejected numerous Fire Force teams and even the Empire's industrial group Vulcan, known as the God of Mechanics. Hinawa suggested visiting Vulcan's workshop directly, but Vulcan was known to despise both the Fire Force and the industrial group due to their connections. Obai decided to send Shinra, Arthur, and Sister to negotiate, as Vulcan was around their age. They dressed casually, knowing the recruitment would be difficult but determined to try. Upon arriving at Vulcan's workshop, Arthur bluntly stated that he was a fire soldier, prompting Vulcan to immediately throw a can at him and drive them away. While leaving, they encountered Yu, Vulcan's apprentice, who realized they were here to recruit his master. Yu called out to Vulcan, having just finished shopping for supplies. Vulcan directly told the trio that he would never work for the Fire Force. Knowing they had no chance, Shinra suggested leaving, but Yu was determined to convince his master. Yu wasn't just an errand boy, he had been passionate about mechanics since childhood and admired Vulcan's skills, making him a self-proclaimed apprentice. He explained Vulcan's talents, though his preference for designing things like skulls was a bit questionable. No one knew why Vulcan despised the industrial conglomerate so much that he rejected every offer they made. Yu only knew that they had cut off Vulcan's supply of materials, but Vulcan likely had a deeper reason. Believing that Division 8 was different from the others, Shinra convinced Yu to take them inside the workshop. There, they met Vulcan's assistant, Lisa. Vulcan had just finished fixing a faulty engine, and upon realizing it wasn't truly broken, he kicked it away. Seeing the trio inside, he threw another can at them, but Shinra insisted on talking. Suddenly, a familiar figure arrived, someone who frequently visited. Vulcan stepped outside to meet him. It was the captain of Division 3. Vulcan knew this man was the one who had cut off his supply of materials. The captain once again invited Vulcan to join Division 3, promising unlimited resources. However, he warned that this was Vulcan's last chance. Ignoring the offer would have consequences. Vulcan knew the man intended to harm him, just as he had done to his grandfather and father. Despite the threats, Vulcan refused to yield. Upon entering, Shinra saw that Vulcan was being pressured by Division 3, but he still regarded the three of them the same way he did other firefighters. Suddenly, Arthur and Sister Iris started messing around in the workshop, pressing every button they saw despite being stopped. Seeing how chaotic they were, Vulcan found it amusing that they were really part of the fire force. Knowing they couldn't leave empty-handed, Vulcan decided to show them something he had created with his father and grandfather. He activated a machine, revealing a 3D projector. He wanted to show them the ancient creatures of Earth as well as those of the present. His dream was to develop technology capable of restoring extinct species. Hearing this, Shinra immediately knew that Vulcan was the perfect person for Division 8. He invited Vulcan to at least meet Captain Obai, but Vulcan flatly refused and walked away. Shinra then asked Lisa about how she came to live with Vulcan. She explained that she had lost her family to infernals and was sent to a convent, but eventually ran away, taking refuge in the scrapyard until Vulcan took her in. The graves nearby belonged to Vulcan's father and grandfather. Vulcan's grandfather had 2 disciples, his son and the captain of Division 3. However, for unknown reasons, both Vulcan's grandfather and father passed away, while the captain joined the fire force and aligned himself with the industrial conglomerate. Vulcan's family had long held a grudge against the conglomerate, but no one knew the full details. Having learned all they could, they returned inside. Suddenly, Shinra felt the same sensation he had when he heard the silent cries for help from the vice captain of Division 7. This time, what he sensed was the killing intent of the captain of Division 3. Arthur was ready to leave, but Shinra insisted on staying. Vulcan, whose goal was to create indestructible things, always tested his inventions by throwing them. He hoped that their relationship would be just as unbreakable. Meanwhile, Shinra told Arthur and Sister Iris about his intuition since it had proven true in Division 7. He suspected Vulcan might actually be in danger. He asked them to warn Vulcan while he patrolled from above. At that moment, the captain of Division 3 ordered his men to eliminate Vulcan and everyone in the workshop. His accomplices were the white-clad. When Arthur and Sister warned Vulcan, he didn't believe them and thought they were using threats to force him into joining them. But before he could finish speaking, a swarm of white-clad operatives appeared. Arthur was baffled that Shinra had let them get surrounded. Just then, the captain grabbed Shinra. Breaking free from the ropes, Shinra dodged the man's attacks while trying to determine the source of the bindings. But before he could react, the captain appeared behind him and electrocuted him. A 2 million volt shock would take down even a monster. He remarked that Shinra had failed because he hadn't prepared properly, while his own plan had exceeded expectations. He then called for reinforcements to take Shinra to the evangelist. Arthur, meanwhile, was unable to fight. His power only worked when he fully embraced the persona of a knight. The stronger his belief, the stronger his abilities. Seeing this, Vulcan, realizing how simple-minded Arthur was, quickly crafted a sword hilt and a cape for him. However, Arthur was still missing a horse. Once fully equipped, Arthur stepped out, now wearing a cape, holding his sword, and with a donkey's head strapped to his waist. But as long as he saw himself as a knight, it worked. Drawing his sword, his power indeed increased. He declared that he would protect the windmill and the princess inside. With a single slash, the illusions of the enemies behind him vanished. Since there were only 2 real enemies, Arthur wasn't worried. The large one charged with a flaming mace, but Arthur repelled him in a single strike. The illusionist also attacked, but Arthur's counter cut through everything. The illusionist then revealed his true form, showing Arthur how ridiculous he looked with a donkey's head. This realization caused Arthur's power to drop significantly. Even without the donkey, Arthur was enraged and determined to keep fighting. Meanwhile, Vulcan instructed Yu and Lisa to escape, entrusting their safety to Sister Iris. Although they didn't want to leave him behind, Vulcan refused to let them be harmed because of him. He had to avenge his family. His family had built the Amaterasu power plant, and despite their separation, he believed their bond would remain unbroken. However, Lisa suddenly revealed her true colors. She was actually an agent of the evangelists sent to find the key to Amaterasu. At the same time, the captain of Division 3 arrived, boldly walking into the workshop. Arthur couldn't stop him as he was held back by two enemies. The captain demanded Vulcan hand over the key or die. He mocked Vulcan's family, calling them pitiful for being betrayed generation after generation by the very people they trusted as family. Despite their foolishness in being deceived repeatedly, they had always been extremely cautious when it came to Amaterasu. To threaten Vulcan, the captain grabbed Yu and shot him once. Yet, Vulcan had no knowledge of any key, so the captain struck him repeatedly. Realizing that Vulcan truly didn't know, he vented his frustration by smashing the 3D projector. However, in doing so, he finally discovered what he had been searching for. Meanwhile, Hibana arrived and rescued Shinra. She considered taking him away immediately, and in hindsight, she should have, because as soon as she freed him, he shot straight back to the workshop. Reuniting with Arthur, Shinra left him to handle things outside while he charged inside. Just as the captain was rejoicing over obtaining the key, Shinra flew in and kicked him in the face. Now, Shinra had to face Lisa. The captain was bewildered as to how Shinra had escaped, while Hibana arrived to assist Arthur, though in her focus on Shinra, she ended up hitting Arthur as well. Inside, Lisa conjured flames that were attracted by magnetism, binding Shinra. Since the human body contains significant amounts of magnetic material, he was unable to break free. Vulcan quickly told Iris to press every button on the wall, causing numerous mechanical animal heads to drop down, most of which flew out of the workshop. Outside, Arthur was nearly done for, but Hibana was hit by a flying mechanical head, disrupting her attack. With the magnetic pull redirected, Shinra was freed. He immediately launched a kick that sent the captain flying out of the workshop. However, at that moment, Sho, Shinra's younger brother, appeared. Shinra recognized him instantly, but Sho, having no memories of his brother, ignored him and punched him. When Arthur rushed in, Sho slashed him and then struck Shinra again with the blunt side of his blade. With the key secured, Sho ordered Shinra to be taken away. Just then, Vulcan arrived in a speeding truck to rescue Shinra and Arthur. The driver was none other than Victor. Vulcan attempted to forgive Lisa and offered to take her with them, but she refused to take his hand. Sho then blocked their path with near-sonic speed. At that moment, Joker appeared, unwilling to let Shinra be captured. His speed was on par with Sho's, allowing the group to escape. Joker, too, withdrew, having chipped Sho's blade, but he admitted that Sho was truly a monster. Afterward, Shinra took Yu to the hospital before meeting Vulcan. Both felt they were similar troubled by family matters and vowed to bring their families back together. Vulcan decided to stay at Division 8 temporarily, and Obai later arrived to bring them all back. Upon returning to headquarters, Shinra worried about Tamaki's cooking, but when he learned Hanawa was in charge instead, he sighed in relief, unintentionally offending Tamaki. During dinner, Shinra and Arthur quarreled until Obai reminded them they had a guest. Everyone complimented Hanawa's cooking, and the three girls realized they were losing to him in terms of femininity. Obai reassured Vulcan that he could take his time deciding whether to join, promising to protect him regardless. He hoped Vulcan would make his choice with a clear mind. The next day, Vulcan returned to the workshop with Shinra and Arthur. He apologized to his father and grandfather, saying he would break his promise to them by joining the Fire Force. However, he remained committed to his goals. With that, Vulcan officially joined Division 8, bringing along his fondness for skull decorations, which Obai happened to like as well. A few days later, Tamaki's former captain, Karam, visited Division 8's headquarters to exchange information. Shinra realized that a clash with Sho's faction was inevitable. Meanwhile, Arthur and Hanawa were thoroughly enjoying Vulcan's gadgets, much to Maki's irritation. Hibana then confronted Obai about making Iris serve tea to their guest, but Iris insisted she did it voluntarily. She only questioned why Hibana was seated so high. Hibana simply disliked sitting on the same level as Karam. After Iris left the room, the captains began their discussion. The vice captain of Division 7 had come in Shinman's place and informed them that his team had only recently learned about the Evangelists faction, which was temporarily referred to as the White Clad. It seemed that many recent cases involving infernals were actually caused by them. Karam suspected that the white-clad were not merely creating infernals, but were searching for a specific ability. Obai, on the other hand, speculated that their objective might be related to Amaterasu, considering how the captain of Division 3 had been searching for its key. Vulcan revealed that the man convicted on television was an imposter. He knew the real captain's face. In short, if they wanted to investigate the white-clad's activities, they needed to find their base. Obai informed the others that Victor had already been assigned to that task. Meanwhile, Joker approached Victor, mocking him for working with the Fire Force. Hibana remained uncertain about trusting Victor, but Obai acknowledged that he had been doing well so far. Obai's Division 8 would take on the mission of locating and infiltrating the white-clad's base, but Hibana doubted that Obai's rookies were reliable. Joker agreed, stating that even if Victor found the white-clad's location, Division 8 wouldn't stand a chance against them, especially against Sho, whose power was linked to the Evangelist. Obai admitted that while his team had great abilities, they lacked real combat experience. The vice captain of Division 7 then mentioned that his team had someone highly skilled in battle and suggested that Obai's members could train with them. Joker also asked Victor if he had found a way to improve Shinra's flames, to which Victor replied that he was still working on it. Shinmin was later informed that he would be training some recruits. He had no choice but to accept, as he still owed a favor to Obai's Division 8. Shinra and Arthur then arrived to meet Shinmin, who taught them their first lesson, never letting their guard down, as carelessness in real combat could mean death. Meanwhile, Vulcan had invented a magnetic fire extinguishing bomb, which Obai seemed to like. Shinmin then challenged Shinra and Arthur to attack him without any rules. They had to fight as if their lives, and their comrades' lives, depended on it. Both charged at him, but Shinmin easily blocked all their attacks and then halted the fight. While their natural talent was good, it was useless if they couldn't land a hit. He instructed them to develop their own unique techniques. Shortly after, Victor arrived with a way to enhance Shinra's speed by utilizing jet propulsion. Victor asked Shinmin to replicate his description of a jet flame. By concentrating the fire in one direction, increasing force, compressing it, and then releasing it, one could achieve a propulsion effect similar to a jet engine. When Shinmin tested it, he was blasted backward. This was the technique Shinra needed to learn, as his flames were too dispersed, weakening their impact. Shinmin then tasked Shinra with learning to control his flames properly, while Arthur was to continue sparring with him. Shinra attempted to control his flames, but found using his feet far more difficult than he expected. He wondered how Shinmin had mastered his own flame techniques so effortlessly. Meanwhile, Maki was playing with her two fire spirits when Hinawa scolded her for playing with fire despite being a firefighter. However, Vulcan had actually requested that Maki summon them, as he had just created a device that would allow her to harness their power as fuel. As Shinra continued practicing, he kept making awkward hand gestures and facial expressions as if he were constipated. Shinmin noticed this, but before he could comment, Arthur lunged at him. Shinmin swiftly knocked Arthur down and told him that if he wanted to launch a sneak attack, he should keep his mouth shut and just strike. He then went over to observe Shinra's training, where Shinra questioned how hand positioning affected flame control. Shinmin explained that in his younger days, he had practiced a martial art where a particular hand stance allowed energy to flow into his legs. He demonstrated the technique to Shinra, who then resumed his training, while Shinmin continued sparring with Arthur. When Shinra first attempted using the new hand stance and energy flow technique, he nearly managed to lift off the ground and could feel the flames compressing under his feet. Upon his next attempt, he focused more intensely and was suddenly propelled straight into the air. Shinmin was surprised but still landed a hit on Arthur, praising him for finally keeping his mouth shut while attacking. The training session continued, and the vice captain of Division 7 was pleased to see Shinmin enjoying himself since Arthur and Shinra were fighters worthy of his time. They trained until the evening, at which point Shinmin called it a day. He urged Shinra to come up with a name for his new technique soon. That night, the vice captain asked Shinmin about his thoughts on the two rookies, and Shinmin replied that they were still just kids, requiring stricter training. Meanwhile, Cho and the White-Clad had learned that the Fire Force had discovered their location. Rather than fleeing, they chose to stay and prepare for battle. At the same time, Shinra reminisced about his childhood. His mother used to scare him by saying that misbehaving children would be taken away to a terrifying place called Nether. Whenever she mentioned it, Shinra would immediately behave. But now, he vowed that if his younger brother Sho had been taken to the Nether, he would not hesitate to go there and bring him back. That moment came when Obai and Victor informed him that Sho and the White Clad were indeed in the Nether. According to Iris, the Nether was a filthy land untouched by the light of the sun god, but scientifically, it was simply the underground ruins of Tokyo. As a forbidden zone, its connection to the White Clad only confirmed that they were heretics. The Nether was once Tokyo's subway system, but it was buried during the Great Cataclysm. Now, it had become the base of those responsible for creating infernals. Obai devised a plan to infiltrate and attack the White Clad's base, believing that within it, they would uncover the secret behind infernal creation. This was not going to be a requiem for the dead, it would be a real battle. He also reassured Shinra that they would bring his brother back. At the end of the meeting, Obai unexpectedly asked Tamaki to stay behind for a moment. Later that night, Shinra had a strange dream involving Sister Iris. While Obai noticed another earthquake, these tremors had been occurring more frequently lately. The following morning, the entire Division 8 departed for the Nether. Entry was only permitted with approval from the Holy Saul Temple, and since they restricted the number of people allowed in, only Division 8 would be taking part in the mission. Iris described the Nether as a terrifying place, which made Shinra even more anxious. Before entering, Arthur asked if Shinra was scared, to which he replied no to save face. The two girls found the place unsettling, but Vulcan was completely unfazed, having been there before to repair the water systems. Hinawa reminded everyone to stay focused so Iris could recite a prayer. The door suddenly opened, but it was merely Vulcan pulling the lever. There was no magic involved. Inside, the darkness was overwhelming, and even Obai hesitated to step forward, prompting Arthur to push him in. Hinawa asked Maki to provide light, so she summoned her two fire spirits. Obai warned everyone to stay alert, as they were about to enter the Evangelist's base, where the secrets of the Infernals were hidden. The White Clad had already anticipated their arrival and had set a trap. Suddenly, the team was engulfed by a dense fog, separating them one by one and dragging them away. Iris clung to Tamaki's hand, but then realized there were two Tamakis both running toward Obai. When the mist cleared, only Obai and Vulcan remained. Sho, upon hearing that Division 8 had been split apart, ordered Arrow to engage in battle and sent their most lethal assassin, Assault, to the battlefield. While this was happening, Tamaki was trying to prove to Iris that she was the real one and that the other was an imposter. The fake had an old man's voice and couldn't even form her signature flaming cat ears. However, it was only when Tamaki tripped and lost her clothing that Iris was convinced she was the real one. The imposter fled, and soon after, the two encountered the White Clad's deadliest assassin, Assault. Meanwhile, Maki had been separated and found herself in a dark, eerie space, unsure of what lurked in the shadows. When a group of White Clad members emerged, she was relieved that they weren't ghosts. The leader was the same one who had collaborated with Division 3's captain and previously attacked Vulcan. Now that she knew who they were, she could fight without hesitation. Humans, after all, could be dealt with. She activated the weapons Vulcan had made for her. The enemy noticed that Division 8 had clearly improved since their last encounter. Maki, recalling that these were the ones who had hurt her juniors, decided to teach them a lesson. When they fired flames at her, she blocked them all and sent a cannon flying, knocking one of them out, while another cannon took down another. A close combat opponent charged at her, but she grabbed his head and headbutted him. Another tried to strike her, but she deflected the attack, swept his leg, and delivered a knee strike straight to his jaw before finishing him off with another cannon shot. Only the enemy captain remained. He pulled out a flaming spiked mace and swung at Maki, but she blocked it and had both of her cannons punch him in the face before she launched into a fierce assault. He remained standing, dismissing her as just a woman who lacked the strength to take him down. Enraged, Maki charged in and delivered a final blow to his head, knocking him out cold. Meanwhile, Assault conjured a fire bullet and fired at Tamaki as she rushed to attack, hitting her immediately. Realizing that she had considerable resistance to flames, he summoned even more. Wanting to finish them quickly, he admitted that he had no interest in torturing women. Tamaki recalled how, the night before, Obai had made it clear that she was not obligated to participate in this mission. but as a proud member of Division 8, she had chosen to come anyway. Shinra had overheard and told her that if she needed help, she could call for him. However, Tamaki reminded herself that, as a firefighter, her duty was to save others, not to be the one who needed saving. With renewed determination, she unleashed her power and charged at Assault. Impressed by her resolve, he decided to take her seriously and combined 2 fire bullets into one massive shot. Tamaki managed to deflect it, but in doing so, she tripped, causing Assault to accidentally grab her chest. Flustered, he froze for a moment, allowing Iris to seize the opportunity and whack him over the head with a metal pipe. But that wasn't enough to bring him down, so the two continued hitting him repeatedly until he was finally knocked unconscious. At the same time, Hinawa had also been separated and was suddenly attacked, forcing him to take cover behind a pillar. His opponent was Arrow, who claimed that Shinra's flames were powerful enough to destroy all of humanity. The White-Clad were grateful that Division 8 had brought him here. Hinawa demanded to know their intentions for Shinra, but Arrow remained silent. Meanwhile, Shinra had also been isolated and was searching for his teammates when he unexpectedly came across Victor, who was being held hostage by a White-Clad member. The captor tried to use Victor as leverage, but before he could react, Shinra blitzed in and kicked him away. The two then noticed that Hinawa appeared to be engaged in a battle nearby and quickly rushed to assist. Hinawa, aware that his location had been exposed, struggled to locate Arrow because the intensity of her flames concealed her position. He knew he had to get closer if he wanted a chance at victory. He moved into a nearby train car to close the distance, but Arrow had anticipated this move. As he left cover, she fired a flaming arrow that pierced straight through the train. Forced to flee once more, he emerged from the wreckage. Arrow declared that once her prey was in her sights, there was no escape. However, Hinawa remained resolute. He would never hand Shinra over to those who had no respect for human life. However, Arrow asserted that the change they sought had no need for things like emotions. She claimed that those who followed the ways of the world were simply fools, as only the evangelist's ideals mattered. Hinawa admitted that, in this world, emotions could sometimes be just as meaningless as they said people merely performed their duties, ignoring their feelings to become cogs in the machine of society. That would indeed be easier. But even so, he refused to hand over his subordinates to people like them. Now was the time for him to unleash his emotions. He revealed his secret weapon gun barrels loaded with bullets at a level of sheer destruction. With just one shot, his firepower equaled that of a tank. However, the gun barrels broke after each shot, forcing him to replace them continuously. Two White-Clad members lurking nearby had been observing, waiting for a chance to strike when Hinawa showed an opening. But they quickly realized that stepping in now would be no different from standing between two tanks engaged in a firefight. Hinawa was soon blown away, unsure of Arrow's condition on the other side. She had begun to rise, while Hinawa was already at his physical limit. But he couldn't give up if not for him. Who else would keep Obai's unruly subordinates in check? He forced himself to stand and fired one last shot at the exact moment Arrow released her arrow. His bullet absorbed the flames from her shot, accelerating in speed and ultimately striking her down. Exhausted, he slumped to rest. The two White-Clad members who had been in hiding finally revealed themselves, intent on finishing him off. However, Hinawa fired a bullet toward the ceiling. They assumed he had missed, but in reality, he had hit something. Arthur then appeared, having been observing everything from above. He recognized one of the enemies as someone who had previously been at Vulcan's workshop and decided to settle things once and for all. Arthur took his stance while the other enemy created numerous illusions to deceive him. Yet Arthur remained calm, unfazed by the illusions since they couldn't cause real harm. Shinman and his lieutenant had once taught Arthur how to sense an opponent's breath during battle. With his exceptional observational skills, he could detect even the slightest movements. Just as Shinman had taught when someone attacks, their breath changes from that of an ordinary strike. So, even when the illusions attacked, Arthur remained motionless, holding his stance. The moment he sensed that distinct breath, he instantly swung his sword, cutting through the air. Hinawa assumed Arthur had struck simply because he had exhaled, but in reality, the illusionist, who had been hiding behind a pillar, suddenly collapsed. Arthur had deduced that the enemy's true intent was to eliminate Hinawa, not him. Hinawa was completely taken aback, while Arthur noted that the remaining enemy had already fled. Arthur then helped Hinawa up. guiding him to reunite with the others. Meanwhile, Tamaki and Iris had fortunately managed to find Maki. At the same time, Obai and Vulcan detected signs of life ahead, soon coming face to face with two figures, Lisa and the captain of Division 3. Lisa had been taken into the White Clad and was now following orders. She was furious that Vulcan had become a firefighter again, but he had done so just to see her again. However, the captain of Division 3 wasted no time in manipulating Lisa's mind, fueling her power and making her attack the two of them. Obai threw out a magnetic bomb to push Lisa back, declaring that adults had a duty to guide the younger generation, not to exploit gratitude and use it as coercion. The Division 3 captain ignored Obai's words, claiming that he no longer needed to be a firefighter. The evangelist had revealed to him the truth of the world, why the Infernals appeared and attacked, and the reality of the apocalyptic flames that Shinra held within him. Obai refused to become like him and entered combat mode. However, both he and Vulcan were quickly caught by Lisa's fire beasts. The Division 3 captain scoffed, saying that powerless individuals like them could never defeat Lisa. She, too, had once been an ordinary human, but he had exposed her to an infernal bug, awakening her abilities. This power, he claimed, was what protected her from the flames she once feared, flames that had taken her parents away. Obai used the magnetic bombs to free both himself and Vulcan. Grabbing his axe, he charged at the Division 3 captain, but Lisa's abilities still protected him. Vulcan wanted to know the true nature of the bug, but the captain had no intention of letting them find out. Obai then took out a fire extinguisher and attempted to put out Lisa's fire beast, but it had no effect. Lisa scoffed, calling the extinguisher useless. However, Obai did not consider firefighting tools useless after all. Protecting people and their property was a firefighter's duty. The captain ordered Lisa to finish off Obai, and she struck him into the wall with her tentacles. She claimed that he was simply throwing his life away, but Obai wasn't seeking death, he was trying to save her. Suddenly, he detonated the fire suppressant bombs he had secretly attached to Lisa's tentacles earlier, causing her to fall. Vulcan caught her, but the captain once again called her back, reminding her not to forget the debt she owed him. Vulcan couldn't hold on to Lisa, and the captain took her hostage to threaten them both. He ordered Vulcan to shoot Obai. If he did, Lisa would be freed. If not, she would die. Under immense pressure, Vulcan was forced to pull the trigger. True to his word, the captain released Lisa. However, Obai suddenly sprang up and pulled a railway track, separating the captain from Lisa. The captain was baffled. Firefighter gear wasn't bulletproof, so how was Obai still alive? Obai planned to keep that a secret, but Vulcan revealed that he had upgraded the team's firefighting suits. As a mechanic, he would never let his captain go into battle unprepared. The captain remained unfazed, eager to see what they could do. He unveiled an array of machines, but Vulcan, now wearing a penguin helmet, charged forward and smashed through them. Obai swiftly engaged in battle, giving Vulcan the chance to take Lisa away. He questioned why someone who had once been a firefighter had fallen so far, placing his faith in the evangelist. The captain argued that humans were merely fuel for the world. The endless cycle of burning and consuming humans for energy was simply the natural order. However, Obai countered that the infernals and bugs were artificial creations. The captain dismissed this, claiming that the term artificial did not apply to a being as transcendent as the evangelist. Obai retorted that the evangelist was nothing more than an idol worshipped by scum like him. The captain, however, countered by pointing out that the Church of Saul did the same, offering prayers to a deity whose existence was uncertain. He sneered that ordinary people like Obai would never understand the true nature of the evangelist. Meanwhile, Shinra suddenly saw strange visions, an ominous demon reaching out and touching him. He then saw images of himself and Sho as children, and a mysterious hand extending toward them. Snapping back to reality, he noticed footprints leading forward, something Victor could not see. The Division 3 captain explained that Shinra's demonic abilities were beginning to resonate with Sho. He revealed to Obai that Shinra's flames stood above all other flames, the ultimate manifestation of a pyrokinetic's power. He also hinted at the connection between the bugs and fire, stating that no one had ever truly understood the behavior of insects or why they were drawn to flames. He speculated that perhaps the bugs were simply returning to their origins, the fire itself. At that moment, Shinra finally reunited with Sho, ready to bring his brother home as promised. However, Sho had no memory of ever having a family. Desperate, Shinra charged forward to reach him. Victor eagerly watched, anticipating the clash between two wielders of the apocalyptic flame. But their movements were so fast that Victor couldn't see a thing. Suddenly, Shinra saved Victor just before Sho could land a strike on him. The battle continued, with Shinra zipping around to entangle Sho's cloak, attempting to restrain him. Sho managed to break free and swung his sword, forcing Shinra to retreat. Sho suddenly stabbed his sword into the ground, stopping time completely. Although Shinra remained conscious, he was unable to move, leaving him completely vulnerable to Sho's attack. Despite being wounded, Shinra forced himself to stand up. Meanwhile, Maki's group was nearing Obai's location, prompting the Division 3 captain to leave, as his role was simply to ensure Shinra faced Sho alone. Before departing, he revealed that Lisa's brainwashing was unbreakable, likening it to a curse that bound itself to the human soul. Sho declared that Shinra would never be able to catch up to him, as he existed in an entirely different space from Shinra. Unwilling to accept this, Shinra charged forward, only to be frozen in time once more and struck with the back of Sho's blade. Victor, observing the battle, realized something about Sho's ability and urged Shinra to retreat, warning that he couldn't win. Shinra didn't understand the trick behind Sho's power, but Sho insisted that even if he explained, Shinra wouldn't comprehend it. Suddenly, their abilities resonated, and they were pulled into a different dimension. The story then revealed a critical piece of history humanity had once engulfed the entire planet in flames, reducing civilization to ashes. This cataclysmic event was known as the Great Cataclysm. Meanwhile, the man who had fled from Arthur contacted another individual, someone directly under the Evangelist. She sensed that the destined moment was approaching, now that two wielders of the Adala Burst had appeared. Back in the alternate dimension, Sho explained to Shinra that the flames they possessed were called the Primordial Flame. These black flames on the earth originated from another dimension, hell itself. The figure that Shinra saw was the Evangelist. Sho then returned them to reality, reaffirming that Shinra would never match his power. Victor then revealed the truth. Sho's ability allowed him to manipulate heat expansion at a universal scale, effectively causing time to stop. Although Shinra found this explanation absurd, he refused to give up. Determined, Shinra pushed his speed to the limit, but from his perspective, Sho seemed to teleport, dodging effortlessly and counterattacking each time. Sho continuously stabbed Shinra, frustrating him. Sho explained that no matter what Shinra did, he could always remain still in time. However, Shinra refused to back down, only for Sho to teleport behind him and send him flying once more. Realizing he needed to take this seriously, Shinra adjusted his abilities and somehow managed to land a hit on Sho. This confirmed his suspicion his power was equal to Sho's. If Sho's abilities were blessed by the Evangelist, then Shinra's were as well. Shinra attempted to replicate his previous success, but still lacked a full understanding of the mechanics. Sho, unwilling to let Shinra grasp the technique, relentlessly attacked, eventually delivering a devastating slash through Shinra's body. Despite his injuries, Shinra fought back, but Sho couldn't understand why he was so obsessed with their supposed blood ties. Shinra explained that while he might seem like a stranger to Sho, Sho meant everything to him. Ever since the fire that separated them, he had wished to see his brother and mother again. Now that the chance had come, he refused to lose Sho once more. He recalled the encouragement and support of his teammates, all of them believing that he had to save his brother, and that they would help if necessary. Drawing strength from these emotions, Shinra charged towards Sho once again. Sho stopped time as usual, but this time, Shinra mysteriously vanished from reality. Sho had no idea where he had gone. Unable to sustain the ability for too long, Sho resumed the flow of time only for Shinra to suddenly crash into a pillar, unable to control his speed. Confused, Shinra had no idea how he had accomplished such a feat. Victor, however, realized the truth. Shinra had moved so fast that he had disintegrated at an atomic level. The problem now was how he had managed to return after breaking apart. Victor had no idea who the Evangelist truly was or how they could grant such overwhelming abilities. Suddenly, Shinra moved again, crashing into a wall before Sho could even register his movement. Victor realized that Shinra had surpassed the speed of light, but if he continued to abuse this power, it could create a black hole and destroy the entire country. However, instead of warning Shinra, Victor chose to observe and see how things unfolded. Sho attempted to stop time before Shinra could move, yet Shinra still managed to land a hit on him. Sho was stunned. Only he was supposed to be capable of moving in frozen time, as he had been blessed by the evangelist. Shinra speculated that by synchronizing with Sho, he had indirectly received the evangelist's blessing, just like Sho himself. At that moment, the veiled woman under the evangelist's command arrived, and, after witnessing their abilities, recognized them as a new generation of power. With their abilities now evenly matched, Shinra and Sho engaged in an intense battle, continuously vanishing and reappearing across the battlefield. Sho was frustrated by Shinra's stubbornness after all. He didn't consider himself Shinra's brother. However, Shinra remained playful, treating their fight like a game, further aggravating Sho. Ultimately, Shinra reached his physical limit first, and Victor advised him to stop. Victor explained that Shinra had been disintegrating his body at the atomic level to move at the speed of light and match Sho. The problem was that each time he used this ability, his body broke down more and more. If he reached his limit while his body was still disassembled, he would die, unable to reconstruct himself. The next time he used it might be his last. Despite this, Shinra was unfazed. He refused to abandon Sho, believing he wouldn't deserve to be called an older brother if he did. Sho blocked another strike and found Shinra to be incredibly persistent. Meanwhile, images from Shinra's mind began flowing into Sho's consciousness, making him uncomfortable. But Shinra refused to give up until Sho truly returned to him. As more of Shinra's memories transferred into Sho, he saw glimpses of Shinra's painful past, how he had been ostracized at school after losing his mother and brother, how he developed an uncontrollable habit of smiling awkwardly under pressure, and how people labeled him a demon. Yet, in truth, Shinra had been hunting the real demon, the one responsible for the fire that destroyed their home. Still, Sho rejected the idea that he was Shinra's brother. However, the memories continued. Sho saw himself being saved from the fire by the evangelist and the veiled woman, Hamiya. Then, his memories rewound even further back to his life before the fire. He saw his mother and brother, the three of them living happily together. He saw Shinra always caring for him in place of their mother. One memory, in particular, stood out. Sho, as a child, had once cried when a newspaper flew onto his face, plunging him into sudden darkness. Panicked, he had screamed, but Shinra had rushed into the room and pulled the newspaper away, bringing light back to him. At that moment, tears welled up in Sho's eyes, and he suddenly found himself in Shinra's embrace. He finally recognized Shinra as his older brother. But before he could process it further, his sword unexpectedly stabbed straight through Shinra's body. Shinra, however, insisted that it wasn't Sho's fault. Right then, Hamiya appeared and revealed the evangelist's true objective: to gather all those who possessed the primordial flame, just like Shinra and Sho. That was why they had been spreading the firebugs to awaken more bearers of the primordial flame. Their ultimate goal was to cause another great cataclysm. Sho demanded that Hamiya tell him what had really happened to him all those years ago, but instead, she electrocuted his head, causing him to lose consciousness and move like a lifeless puppet. She then attempted to take Shinra as well, but his teammates arrived just in time to save him. Arthur encouraged Shinra to keep fighting, declaring that only he was allowed to kill Shinra. Hamiya tried to attack Arthur with electricity, but her abilities seemed to have no effect on him. Her ally urged her to retreat, but she insisted on eliminating the entire squad first. Just then, Maki's two cannon projectiles flew toward her, yet they stopped in midair, and even the bullets fired at her failed to land a hit. Hamiya grew increasingly frustrated as Arthur continued to nullify her abilities. According to her, Arthur emitted some form of gamma energy that disrupted her electricity, preventing it from connecting to the nervous systems of others. Taking advantage of this, the team successfully distracted Hamiya and managed to rescue Shinra. However, with the tunnel on the verge of collapse, they had no choice but to retreat. Though Shinra was deeply disappointed at failing to reclaim Sho, the team prioritized getting him to safety. While they escaped unscathed, tremors continued to rumble beneath them. They hurriedly transported Shinra to Division 6's base, where they met Captain Huang, a doctor. She inquired about Obai's recent investigation in the Nether, and he explained that they had uncovered the White Clad and the Evangelist's scheme spreading firebugs to create more infernals, all in search of bearers of the Attila Burst to bring about the world's destruction. Obai then pleaded with Huang to do everything in her power to save Shinra. However, she warned that even if he survived, he might suffer permanent consequences. Nevertheless, she was determined to preserve the Attila Burst for the Fire Force and save Obai's comrade. In the operating room, once they extracted the sword from Shinra, Huang used her abilities to conjure a snake and guided it into his body. The snake would facilitate his recovery, but ultimately, his survival depended on his own willpower. Meanwhile, Arthur asked about the others, and Tamaki explained that their lieutenant was receiving medical treatment. Victor had gone off to investigate something, and Vulcan was staying with Lisa. Arthur found it strange that Division 6 operated as a hospital, but Tamaki clarified that just as Division 1 was tied to both the Fire Force and the Church, Division 6 was the only unit with healing capabilities, thus serving as a medical facility. Huang successfully stabilized Shinra, though he would need several days to fully recover and regain consciousness. When he finally awoke in a hospital bed, he was disheartened by Shou's return to the Evangelist. At that moment, former Division 1 Captain Burns arrived and invited Shinra outside for a conversation about the fire that had occurred at his home 12 years ago. After eating, Shinra listened as Burns revealed that he had been the one who rescued Shinra from the blaze 12 years prior. He then apologized for altering the official report, which had led to Shinra being branded as a villain. Shinra, however, pressed him on whether he had known that Shou was still alive and had been taken by the Evangelist. Burns admitted that he did, enraging Shinra. But Burns questioned how Shinra, who still had yet to fully control his own power, intended to rescue Shou. Shinra, resolute, declared that the next time he faced Shou, he would be strong enough to save him. Burns then challenged him to prove his strength by defeating him in battle. The details of their fight remained unclear, but sometime later, Vulcan arrived to pick Shinra up. He urged Shinra not to appear so despondent in front of Maki and Iris, as they were deeply worried about him. Vulcan also reminded him that he was not alone. Upon returning to their base, Shinra reunited with Iris, followed by Maki, who regretted not being able to personally welcome him back. Entering the office, he greeted Tamaki, Arthur, and Victor. Hinawa was relieved to see him and immediately handed him a stack of reports to complete regarding their previous mission after he finished meeting with Obai. Reporting to Obai, Shinra formally announced his return to the team. As for his battle with Burns, Shinra had repeatedly charged at him, but Burns effortlessly blocked each attack. Eventually, Burns, stirred by Shinra's determination, unleashed his full power, transforming into a living mass of heat energy that relentlessly repelled Shinra. Frustrated, Shinra questioned why Burns would tell him part of the truth, only to demand he prove his worth before hearing the rest. Though careful not to outright disrespect Burns, Shinra couldn't hide his irritation. However, he soon calmed down, resolved to demonstrate his strength. Shinra then launched forward, compressing the flames beneath his feet to enhance his power, but he was still repelled. Trying again, he finally pierced through Burns' wall of fire and landed a hit. Burns was astonished the weak flame he had once saved had grown into something formidable. When Shinra managed to wound Burns' arm, the captain finally acknowledged his strength and agreed to reveal everything. He disclosed that 12 years ago, the Evangelist had already begun their operations. The Evangelist had foreseen the fire at Shinra's home. At that time, Shou awakened his Adala burst, which ignited the house. This event also triggered Shinra's own abilities. The demon he had seen in the fire was, in fact, his mother. She had been transformed by Shou's flames, with the Evangelist partially responsible for her fate. Shinra was devastated. He had spent all this time searching for the demon, only to discover that it was the very mother he loved. When he asked Burns what had happened to her, Burns recounted that 15 minutes after the fire started, he had arrived, kicked down the door, and found Shinra inside. Shinra had spoken about the flames and the demon, which immediately alarmed Burns. As he ventured further in, Hamiya and another individual had already used their abilities to create a fake corpse of Shinra's mother, manipulating her into handing Shou over to them. She had then left the house carrying Shou, vanishing into the unknown. Burns also noticed that Shinra had awakened his abilities. To prevent him from using them, he lied, telling Shinra that both his mother and brother had perished in the fire. He feared that if Shinra honed his powers, the Evangelist would eventually target him as well. That was why Burns had never given Shinra any reason to develop his abilities. Even though Shinra had used his flames to get this far, he still harbored resentment toward them. Burns could only reveal this much, adding that he had lost his right eye after looking directly into the Adala burst once. This revelation helped Shinra piece everything together. His horned, one-eyed vision of the demon had actually been his mother. However, Burns had no further information on her whereabouts. Later, Shinra encountered the lieutenant of Division 6 and noticed her resemblance to the captain of Division 4. She confirmed that Division 4's captain was her grandfather. Shinra reported this to Obai, who speculated that there might be a connection between Shinra's abilities and the captain of Division 4. Since Obai would soon be visiting Fire Force headquarters, he planned to investigate further. Determined, Shinra swore to find a way to revert an infernal back into a human because that was the only way he could save his mother. That night, Division 8 threw a celebration to welcome Shinra back from the hospital. Karam and Hibana also attended the gathering. Tamaki asked Karam if her probation period had ended, while Shinman and his lieutenant arrived as well. Before Obai could even announce the start of the party, chaos broke out. With that, Fire Force Season 1 came to an end.